You're still good.
Thank you.
Great, and I know they took a lot of work to get it, but Dylan back up there, yeah. Build it up to. So my. Yeah. Whatever, like musical chairs. You'll be there, we'll have to move next meeting, right? Because Katie is there. Oh, okay, but we don't have, well, next meeting. Steve, can you hear me?
Very well.
I mean, I could be here.
No, just stay there. That's fine.
But I'm just saying, she sit there that way. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
What are you looking? Hey. You tell me where you. Right. Not hearing you. Are you ready? Yeah, okay. I think everybody is in place. Thank you for coming to the December 13th, 2022 City Council, Trinidad City Council meeting. It looks like we have a really exciting meeting tonight. We've got a new council that we're going to be introducing and putting in, and we have lots of good news along with that. I'm going to be running the meeting, but Mayor Ladwig is here. You can see him up there. He's off doing business, but he's going to be here for some items tonight. So we're going to get started right now, beginning with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have a closed session, so we are going to begin by looking at our agenda. And by the way, it is the last meeting of 2022. It was another exciting part of tonight. So I would like to know if anybody needs any kinds of changes or anything you would look at the agenda, or shall we approve it? We could have someone.
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
And I'll second it.
All right, we'll just do it all in favor.
Aye.
All right, and it passes. And now we have to look at the minutes. And I hope you all had a chance to look at them. Do we have any anybody up in the council have something they wanted to look at in the last month? Which is the 11th, November 8th minutes. Any changes?
None for me.
Mayor Ladwig, do you have anything to add?
No, I do not. Thank you much.
Okay, then we need a motion. Oh, first, is there anybody in the public who had any questions or needed to ask, and have any issues with the December 11th meeting? Minutes. I'm sorry, the November 8th. Okay, I see that.
I'll move to approve the minutes from November 8th.
I'll second
Okay. All in favor? All right. Mayor Ladley?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. We have it's 4-0 and passes. So we're gonna have some, we have council reports. Let's start. Jack, do you have any council reports tonight?
I'm part of the Redwood Coast Energy Authority. There's some exciting things happening over there. Currently, we're working with Humboldt Wind Energy area, which is an area like 21 miles offshore of Trinidad. There was a current lease an auction actually happened earlier this month to help bring about 206 square miles of wind energy off the coast of Humboldt. So pretty exciting. And we'll be having a lot of clean energy very soon. Also, it looks like PG&E might be increasing their rates April this year about 3%. Redwood Coast Energy Authority strive to make sure that their rates are still lower than PG&E's rates. So they're still at half a point less than what PG&E is. That's all I have.
Thank you. Good news. Councilwoman Kelly, do you want to do something? You have something to report?
I have a couple of quick things. The Water Advisory Committee met on November 14th, and some really great news. Eli mentioned, I think in his last staff report, is that the leaks in town have been fixed and substantially different water loss from 48% down to 11.25%, which is below the standard. So it's, in other words, really good news. We're not losing as much water. Staffing was completed. So Sina Soleimani, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, attended our Water Advisory Committee meeting, and he's now taken over the water plant. So for people who are concerned about kind of the costs of having an interim contractor, we're back to just time and materials as sort of a backdrop to our own staff in the water plants. Good news. And that was talked about at WAC. WAC did request, the committee did request more information on the Pacific Watershed Associates and what they're doing in the Humboldt project. So I'll add that to future topics. Drinking water quality report has been requested for, I guess 2021 wasn't completed, so we've requested one for 2022. And in terms of resiliency, which was the other topic, we talked a lot about rainwater catchment, and I think everybody saw the presentation in council about that, but we have asked the Planning Commission to continue to work on pre-approved permit templates for people to install their own rainwater catchment. So that was the Water Advisory Committee. Then we had a quick website task force, because we've gotten a lot of feedback about the website. And we met with our current service provider, Eli and Gabe and I, and Eli set up 2 meetings for us with vendors, and we'll cover that more in future city council meetings, but we are making progress there. Last one I have is the Planning Commission. The meeting for November was canceled, but I did have a meeting with Richard Johnson, the Planning Committee Chair, Commission Chair, and Trevor Parker, the city planner, regarding the general plan. And we have a good, I think, action in place. Those of you that were at the last city council meeting know that Supervisor McGrone and others, including myself, kind of cautioned that we're in the last mile of getting our general plan done, and we don't want to lose momentum. And so I think we came up with a good plan with staff's help to have a monthly meeting with the California Coastal Commission, make sure that that they're kind of ticking and tying their action. And then we're also going to work on an overall project plan with milestones and timelines. And then finally, we've asked for help from the city staff to prioritize SHN resources. So the city planner, Trevor, works for SHN, and we would like to make sure that she sees the general plan as a priority. And I guess I'll just say, for those of you that don't know what a general plan is, that's kind of the city's constitution. And so once we get that done, all the ordinances and everything else kind of cascade from that. So a little bit of a long story there, but that's my report.
Thank you. That's lots of good news you presented. Thank you very much on a roll here.
Yeah.
Mayor Ladley, do you have anything to report tonight?
Yes, thank you much. Also, thank you, Jack, for stepping in and running the meeting. I'm visiting family, so I really appreciate you stepping in. was able to attend the first of many meetings about the coastal resiliency efforts. Trinidad is part of a statewide effort at addressing coastal resiliency in the face of climate change. And so it was about 25 people came into the meeting. It was virtual with plans of being in person in the future, and really a great format for hearing from community members about what the needs are of the city. And they've got a nice map planned out, and you can access that on the city's website to see what the long-term plan is for this 2-year process and how we're going to proceed. So I really encourage as many people as possible to participate in this. Again, we're part of a statewide effort. So it's both local and global in that sense. So really encourage that participation. And then also just to recognize the fact that we had another very well-attended boat on a trailer parade on Sunday. And it's just really great to see so many people out and about enjoying what makes Trinidad beautiful. So that is my report.
Thank you. And I'll make a brief report on our, I don't have an HCOG report this month. So I will report on a little more about our Trails Committee. We are going to be meeting after the break, after Christmas. We'll be coming back and meeting. We're going to start looking at these trails. I think we have a good plan to begin looking at our trails will be, getting the new posts out and start, if possible, getting them put in. We hopefully will have at least some of the trails marked and some new trail ideas, including possibly working on a map before the summer. That's the goal. So we'll see how well we can do. So it's been nice to have a great group of people working on the Trails Committee to try to see this move forward. So with that, we will go on to hear our staff report from city manager.
First of all, we have law enforcement. Lieutenant McCall is on the Zoom, so I will turn it over to Lieutenant McCall to give us an update on law enforcement in the city.
Good evening. So yeah, looking at the stats for November, calls for service were down by about 20%. We had 154 calls for service in the Trinidad area in October. It was down to 122 calls for the month of November. Reports taken were also down by cutting half. We went from 12 reports taken in October to 6 in November. However, arrests were up, went from 1 in October to 5 in November. 3 felony investigations for November and 6 misdemeanor investigations. Looks like no real significant violent assaults or crimes. There was 1 general assault, 2 burglaries, which would be residential and or vehicle, 2 vandalisms, and 1 trespass prowler call, 5 alarm calls. There were 7 patrol checks, 4 pedestrian checks, and 5 suspicious vehicle calls, putting miscellaneous calls down from 114 in October to 95 in November. So it's hopefully December holds with that. It was nice not seeing a big uptick in thefts and stuff like that, especially this time of the year when that stuff seems to get on the rise as people are shopping in packages and stuff are showing up.
Thank you, Lieutenant McCall. Are there any questions? Okay, yes, come up to the podium, please.
I'm Katie Breckenridge. I wondered if you could say something about the nature of the calls. There was a lot of calls. So if you could sort of open it up a little bit so I have a better understanding of what kind of calls are coming in.
Yeah, so I don't have aside from those calls that I went through, I don't have a breakdown of what those types of calls were. However, if you go onto the sheriff's website and you go into the through their citizens RIMS. So RIMS is the report information management system that we use. It's also linked to our computer aided dispatching. So all that stuff is linked. So if you go in there, there's a link for it's called Citizens RIMS. And if you go into that, it can bring up a map of the area you want to look at, and it can be broken down by the types of calls, generally where those calls were at. And all of that information would be in there and accessible to anybody that wants to go onto the website and just look at that. It's actually a kind of nice, handy thing to have, and can further break some of that down if that's information you would like to look at.
And I'll add that in our packet, there's a weekly breakdown of the various reports that went into the sheriff's office. And so that's all broken down in the packet. In addition to that, just so everyone is aware, the numbers that Lieutenant McCall was talking about cover what's considered the greater Trinidad area. So it does include West Haven, it does include areas north of the city. So as a result, you take that into consideration. It's just not only the 1 square mile of Trinidad.
Yeah, that is correct.
We have another question. Are you able to come up, or do you want to? Yeah, no, go right ahead. So someone else is coming up to the podium.
My name's Sedora King, and kind of in line with what Eli just said, I have wanted to know for probably 3 years if it's possible to just get from the sheriff's department, and I know computers can do everything, even though I don't know how to use them. But I think it would, I'm surprised, I've never heard anybody ask this, can we just have the breakdown of the immediate Trinidad area for the crimes? Because the list that comes out in the packet of pages and pages of calls is completely daunting to look at. And most people would run out of the city if you thought that was our crime log. So I think it would be a lot more usable. And tonight on the agenda, it appears that we're maybe looking at another source for security for us. If they looked at that and said, holy cow, how are we going to handle those kind of calls? So I guess I would like just a yes or no. Can a computer just give us the calls, maybe for 6 months for just Trinidad? And if there are people out there that really want to know what's going in West Haven and what's going north, we can bring it back if they really feel like they're missing it. But I would like to know what pertains to us. And I've read the logs. I'm prior law enforcement. I was going to get a map of the city and try to plug those calls in myself, but it's really impossible to do it. But I know a computer can. So could I get an answer on that? And I can sleep nights after that, whichever way you tell me that we can have it or we can't have it. Thank you.
Well, try and I guess answer from my side. With pulling that stuff up, it's difficult to, at least from my understanding, and I am not a tech guru when it comes to pulling all this stuff up. We have some analysts and other people that pull that information out. From my understanding, and I can definitely inquire to see if there's a way to get that a little more defined. But my understanding from asking that question before, because it's not the first time it's come up with that, is that because the way we pull the stats is usually by an area code or an affected area, it's hard to go into the system to define. You can't just go on the map and draw the city limits and pull up the calls that way. So it ends up obviously bringing in calls from outlying of specific to city limits. I know from some past conversations, a lot of people do like that, because even though something may not have happened, for instance, in the city limits of Trinidad itself, a lot of those areas that are very close by, it's still part of the community, and it still kind of can have direct correlation to stuff occurring in the city. As far as if you wanted to look at more direct to Trinidad itself, again, that citizen RIMS, because it pulls up a map and you can look at the calls for service, and as long as you're aware of where city limit lines and stuff are at, you could actually kind of get a better idea of that. Like I said, I can definitely inquire to see if we get something a little more specific, but I don't know that it's going to be easy to extrapolate all that data out of there, and then also not potentially leave stuff out that people may want to see or be aware of.
I just wanted to add that, as Lieutenant McCall mentioned, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department website has something called a heat map. And on that heat map, you can drill in and see all kinds of data. And so I think maybe it's an action we could take to see if there's a way to print it out. Because I know I can see it visually on the screen when I do the heat map, but I haven't yet tried to print it. So, and I'm happy to send out the link to that if anybody doesn't have it. I'll send it to city staff and they can post it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
So anyway, one thing to really know about the law enforcement things, when you do look through it with the various addresses, the vast majority is outside the city limits. And we'll look into if we can possibly I know we have a list of about a dozen city streets. And so maybe if we put that with this, it might help people that they can identify, because you'll see so many names that are certainly way outside the city limits, along West Haven and something. Okay, so as far as staff report, the staff report is included in the packet. I didn't want to mention so yeah, fortunately, we've been getting a decent amount of rain. So the flow in Leopolds Creek has been good. And then our public works staff had attended a public works forum in Fortuna several weeks ago. Our auditor finished his work on site, now is putting together the audit at his office. And so we've included in here information about the TOT revenue, which was up for this last quarter of July to September 2022 compared to 2021 by approximately almost $5,000 more. And as far as the renewal process, Jennifer gave me updated figures. We received 10 applications back. 9 have been scheduled for inspection and 1 has been completed. We're running fairly ahead of schedule since these were sent in the middle of November, and they're technically the due date would be the end of January. That's still the correct time, same time period. So we are ahead of schedule there. Business law application, I'm sorry, the business license applications are also sent through they can be completed through a PDF online, and they were sent as in an email. And if people want to request a paper packet, they can. And also the business licenses can be done online now. Jennifer had prepared all of those forms, and this is the first time we're doing them that way. And the community yard sale, just to let everyone know in advance, is that it would be June 3rd of 2023. So people can plan that in their calendars once they get the new calendar out for January. So if there's any other questions, our water loss had gone up to 24%, but we did have a leak over at Murphy's Market. So that's been corrected. So hopefully it will go back down again. Hopefully around 20. If it's around 20, then we're fairly confident that things are functioning as well as they can be with our aging pipes. And I'll also mention that for the new council members, and they're having a new Mayors and Council Members Academy. And I mentioned this at the last meeting. It's going to be in January 18th through the 20th in Sacramento. So if any of the new council members are interested, let me know, we can register you. And if someone wants to go to Universal City, February 1st through 3rd, they will repeat it for Southern California. That's all I have. I'll answer any questions anyone might have.
Any other question? Mayor Ladwig, you have a question? Anyone else have a question they'd like to ask? Ask Eli. I see no hands up and no one seeming ready, so thank you very much. And we'll go to items from the floor. And it says at this time, members of the public may comment on items not appearing on the agenda. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Please direct your comments to the council as a whole. Maintain the quorum and avoid personal attacks on staff members or the council and other members of the public. Council and staff responses will be minimal for non-agenda items. However, we have one person who has to be, and she's going to give us a report on one of the items that will be coming up. So if you, Catherine Burles is going to discuss an item that is on tonight, but she has to leave, so we're going to give her a chance to speak right now. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Burleson, and I live on Patrick Street, even 2.5 miles north of Trinidad. As most of you know, my corgi Emma and I were attacked by a pack of dogs here in Trinidad 5 years ago. Thanks to the incredibly brave Good Samaritan and the skill of the emergency vet, Emma survived. It was a horrendous experience and a very close call. Not only were we both attacked by the dogs, I was bitten by Mallet, the owner of the dogs. Here tonight to respectfully request 2 things. First, that you enforce the Trinidad leash law, and secondly, that you cite my Frank Mallet in full. Since the incident, I've heard from numerous other people that they no longer walk the dogs on the beach or on Trinidad trails because of off-leash dogs. It is simply not safe. We have received accounts of 3 other incidents regarding 1 or more of Mr. Mallet's dogs attacking other dogs, 2 right outside the door here. One eyewitness account is now in the sheriff's file on this case, as are several eyewitness accounts of our incident. I've lived in Trinidad for over 30 years, and I never thought I would consider it unsafe. But times have changed and we need to adjust. This incident, as horrible as it was, could have been much worse. Frank Mallet often had that van of unrestrained dogs parked right outside. I'm sure all of you someone between the time. This is just across the street from the grammar school. Think about that, the grammar school. None of us want to even imagine what might happen if such an attack were to involve children. This is not a small matter. If anything, my experience should serve as a warning and a wake-up call. As leaders of this community, dedicated leaders in this community, your first priority must be public safety. If we don't have that, nothing else matters. I urge you to do everything possible to enforce the leash law. And furthermore, and equally important, Frank Mallet must be cited until accountable for breaking the law.
For coming in and letting us know more about that incident. And we are going to be looking at it later and continuing to look at it in the future. So it won't stop here at all. Thank you. It's a count. Well, we'll move on. We'll get back to this soon. Does anybody else have an item from the floor they'd like to bring up? Yes, sir.
Hello. My printing is printing too small, so I just have 3 items. Aaron Dakin of U Avenue just wanted to bring to everybody's attention tonight. Here before you guys tonight to implore you again to direct the expenditure and installation of traffic calming and speed control measures in our town. Rather than only gripe about the problem, I'm coming with some solutions and ideas and information. I'm willing to donate time to work with or for the city to make these solutions happen. Typically, I'd like to see speed humps on 2 residential streets, Ocean and View, that service alternate routes to and from the harbor and as part of the school drop-off pickup traffic flow through town. I suggest that 2 per street, strategically spaced to prevent drivers from gaining significant speed over any distance would be a great starting point. There are versions of speed humps designed to slow drivers to 15 miles an hour. The speed limit's on those two streets in question, actually, that can be glued and or spiked into existing roadways and would be a relatively inexpensive and quick way to address this issue. 5-minute internet search revealed that there are options that cost just under $800 for each 15-foot speed hump. They have a 15-year warranty. I'd also like to suggest the city purchase 1 or 2 of the semi-portable radar speed signs that can be mounted to signposts throughout the city that will help bring attention to actual speeds versus posted limits. They are removable and can be placed in different locations to address issues and speeds in specific areas. And again, a 5-minute internet search revealed that those retail right about the $2,900 mark. Also, I reached out today to Caltrans and have contact information for the Deputy Director of District 1 for maintenance and traffic that could be contacted to see if there could be any cooperation between Caltrans and the city to borrow one of their trailer mounted versions. I don't know if the sheriffs have them. I've mentioned those before you guys. I think there's options to just kind of really raise awareness. That's the first issue. It's been a source of discussion much longer than I've been a part of this community. Let's act on it now. It's relatively easy, simple, and we can get it done and cross it off all of our lists. The second comment is regarding our contract for services with the Sheriff's Department. I believe it was the October meeting. I suggested that we evaluate that and understand that we are getting what we're paying for, that we understand what is a realistic expectation for the terms of the contract and making sure we're getting that. I don't know if that's happened yet. I looked through the minutes and haven't seen if that's happened yet. So I'd love any information on that. I know personally, I contacted the Sheriff Department twice this summer and fall, and they were incredibly responsive in both issues I brought to their attention. Once they were aware of them, they took care of it. And I think it's important that we spend our money wisely and make sure that the money we've already encumbered and spent, we're getting our value for that. The last thing, another idea to increase law enforcement presence in town. Working as a first responder down in the Bay Area, we frequently have law enforcement partners that stop by our fire stations. In fact, 2 of our 5 fire stations where I work have workspaces available for them, bathrooms, microwaves, refrigerators, things like that. Their offices are their cars, right? They don't have a safe place to go to the bathroom. They don't have a clean place to go to the bathroom, simple things like that. We have an old police department. We could, I think, very easily, very economically kind of refurbish that and offer that out there to CHP, the Sheriff's Office, state parks, fish and game, maybe tribal resources. A lot of people that would come to town and kind of increase their presence and just have them be a part of our community. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Before you sit down, could you just briefly tell us how things went Sunday with the whole, you were at the school event? Saturday or Sunday?
Oh, the craft fair?
Master, was that a success?
So it was a wonderful success. Yeah, there were a lot of, it was steady the whole day through from, this is the craft fair that was done at the school as a fundraiser. I think it was 3rd grade and then also PTO. It was really nice to see a lot of vendors coming through that, and a lot of the public coming through that, people from outside the community, Christmas shopping, that kind of stuff. I know there was a similar event here, a pop-up, and I have no idea how that went, but I know a lot of people kind of went back and forth between the two, so.
Well, thank you. It was a busy day, and I went through it and I was very impressed. So nice job.
Yeah.
It's great to see what you're doing. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else with an item from the floor tonight?
I have a quick public comment from
Please.
Krista Schaefer. I'm not gonna read the whole letter, apologies for that, but Krista, but she, I just wanted to echo, I guess, what Erin was just saying, because she had sent us a letter, her concern about pedestrian safety, was crossing from Galindo toward the Marine Lab. And there's a sharp curve there, and she's witnessed a number of times near accidents there with pedestrians. So she was recommending that we put some safety measures in place. And then also there's been some confusion now with tourists taking a left and going down Galindo, kind of straight into their neighbor's driveway versus, going down to the harbor. And she thinks it's because we resurfaced the road and it looks like you're supposed to go down there. So I just want to enter this in as a public comment from her, since she wasn't able to attend tonight, and her letters was sent to everyone. And then maybe we can get to it in future topics. We can talk a little bit about that kind of stuff in the future.
I think that's great. All of us work together. We need to keep working on public safety. This is some great information. So thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Have a comment? We have a hand up. Okay, Sherry Provo, please.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. I just wanted to also recognize the need for some speed bumps or some signage on the two streets that Aaron was talking about. I have property on View Street, and it does, traffic does go pretty fast in that area sometimes. And so we do have families and kids who ride bikes and play ball. And so I think we need to figure out some signage or speed bumps on those two areas. So I really appreciate him bringing that forward. The other comments I'll have is the school craft fair was a delight. I really appreciate the school allowing the students to have their own tables. My granddaughters sold out, believe it or not, of their earrings, so they were really impressed. And so I just want to thank the school and the community for having our young students be entrepreneurs in the art field and create their crafts and be able to enjoy this space. And then I will just echo Mayor Ludwig's comment about the boat parade. It was wonderful. It was nice that it wasn't raining and we had a good turnout. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else who would like to make any kind of a comment? See no more hands and no one standing up. So thank you very much for all the comments. I hope we really can get some of these things going. All right, we are moving to the consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is requested by any council member, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. A single opportunity for public comment on the consent agenda is available. And tonight we have the staff report and there's financial statements, the law enforcement report. We already discussed that, and then a resolution to authorize the process of consolidating CDP by Caltrans to install broadband infrastructure along State Highway 101 in the city of Trinidad. Is there anyone on the council that would like to pull any of the items? I see no's up there. Is there anyone in the public who would like to pull an item? I see no one putting a hand up, so we can make a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, let's do a count on this. Okay.
Motion by Mayor Ladwig, seconded by Councilmember Kelly to approve the consent agenda as submitted. We'll start with Mayor Ladwig.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Tuttle.
Yes.
And West.
Yes.
Passes unanimous.
Right, now we're going to come up to what I think is going to be kind of a highlight tonight. We're going to begin the discussion action items, and the first one I'm going to give to Gabe. He's going to explain a little bit about the election. So thank you, Gabe.
Here for him. So it's customary after every election, I think 30 days following the election, the county of Humboldt will certify, the county elections office will certify the result. And I believe today the board of supervisors this morning at their hearing certified the county's result. So it makes sense. I think we kind of were teetering on the cusp by having it on our agenda of maybe just doing it prematurely, but the timing was perfect. So as you know, we had two items on the for election this year, the tax measure, scrolling through here to the tax measure increasing the measure, it's called Measure P, increasing the occupancy tax from 8 to 12%, and that passed with 77.2% voter support. And then the council member contest, 3 council members, 4-year terms, turned out with both incumbents, Councilmember Kelly and Tuttle, and Katie Breckenridge as being the inheritors of those seats for 4 years. So as a result, I guess the other thing worth noting is I believe what I read in the election certification was that there's 193 total votes cast, and that was for the measure. So the voter turnout was decent, and it is a matter of business then for the city to adopt a resolution basically certifying the results that the county provided. And unless there's any confusion or clarification that is required, I think it'd be smooth to just go ahead and adopt the resolution. That would be our recommendation and move forward. So did I see something? Oh, okay. What Eli is pointing out to me is that maybe is the final results from the.
Yeah. These are exactly what you have.
Oh, the vote by mail. I'm sorry. So as a matter of accuracy, and I'm glad Eli pointed this out, is that when I created this resolution, I just used the vote by mail totals for the percentages, and that's what he's mentioning to me right now, which are just a tiny fraction off. I guess I did not include the votes at the polling place, which were 17 out of 469. So it slightly tweaks those totals. And if it's okay with the council, this resolution can be adopted with the, let's just call them the amended percentages. It looks like, for instance, Katie Breckenridge, I have 31.56%, but in the certified results, this is just an error on my part. It's 31.28. So it's very minor. We're talking about a few votes, but I think for the purposes of just absolute accuracy, I should probably add that to the motion tonight. That's okay. You know. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you, Gabe. Now, so does the council have any questions about tonight? Or this? Okay, does anyone else have something they'd like to add to this or questions? All right. With that in mind, we'll need a motion, please.
I move to adopt the resolution accepting the election results with the amendments that Gabe described.
John. Gabe, could you do a roll call?
Yeah, so first by Councilmember Kelly, seconded by Councilmember Tuttle to adopt resolution 2022-15, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Trinidad canvassing returns and declaring the results of the general municipal election held on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, as amended to match the certified results provided by the County of Humboldt Elections Division. And with that, we'll start with Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Ladwig.
Aye.
West.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
And before I move on, I would really like to thank Gabe for all the work he's been doing on this. He did a pretty amazing job of getting these things over to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is now we're going to swear in and see our new elected council members. So Gabe, you're on again.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we've done this before many times, but in this case, I think what I'll do is so we can do this as a group. I think each of you have the oath at your desk. Now, council members Kelly and Tuttle are, let's do this, are already sworn into office, but just as a matter of housekeeping, we'll go ahead and ask you to maybe step up over here. We'll get on the camera for anybody watching, if that's okay with you two. And then we'll ask our new member, Katie Breckenridge, to step up here with us, and we'll all read the oath together. That's okay. Great. Why don't, so we can get everybody on. Yeah. First of all, to everyone. And I'll ask you all to raise your right. And I'll read a sentence. And first by everybody state their name. Jack Tubb. Okay, and I'll read a sentence and you can repeat after me. So that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the State of California against all enemies, foreign. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the State of California. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the State of California. That you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that you will faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to. And I will faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to. Congratulations. Hey, it's one of my favorite parts of my day.
Big smile, nice job. You're welcome.
Oh, chocolates.
And now that we've taken care of that, 4 years, congratulations, you will be here all that.
For yours.
All right. Okay, for the next thing we have to do is select a mayor and mayor pro tem. They've given us, we have to make this decision, and it says that this is what we do as, well, it says as practicable after each general election, which one or more persons are elected to the city council. The council members shall vote on one of their own to serve as mayor and one to serve as mayor pro tem. And so with what it tells us, the 5 of us here, we're all here, so we have a choice. We can either nominate or we can leave it the same. You have all kinds of options here. Mayor Ladner, do you want to, if it was off, would you like to stay on as mayor?
Yes, I would very much like to continue on as mayor. I've enjoyed the team that I'm on. I'm also open to other people. Certainly leadership is not by one person, but I do have a couple of initiatives that I would like to continue to work on. And so that is my platform.
And I have certainly enjoyed working with Steve, and if you, I mean, I have no problem staying on as the mayor pro tem. I also am allowing anybody who would like to step in to give it a try. So we can, you are now on if you'd like to make somebody, this is your chance.
Any interest?
Oh, yeah. So Steve has been mayor for how long now? 4 years, Steve?
4 years.
4 years, okay. And you already asked the question about whether Steve wanted to continue, so that's good to know. I don't know what the pros and cons are of having a rotation. I know we put in a 2-year rotation. And you know, it's good to have someone who really has the skills and understanding to continue on. But it's also good potentially to have a rotation. So I'm going back and forth because I think, you know, Steve's done a fabulous job leading these meetings and, you know, clearly has some things that he wants to continue doing, but then I'm also kind of thinking that it's good to rotate from time to time. So I'm just gonna kind of hold my thoughts for now and see what comments come out of the discussion.
And if I could jump on that, Cheryl, and I'm sorry that I'm not there. I really appreciate being able to participate this from afar and be with my family down here in SoCal. I agree 100%. And I think I think we've made some very good strides in making sure that everybody on the council is participating, at very full capacity, right? So I guess I just say that in support of your interest in keeping a lot of people involved and whatnot. I believe that our council is doing a good job at that. And that's not meant to, usurp the rotation idea. I think it's just really meant to support it.
If you have any comment.
Cheryl, do you have any interest in? Mayor?
I always go where the need is greatest, so I'm happy to step in wherever I'm needed. I enjoyed chairing the planning commission for a few years. I also enjoy working with our mayor. So, I open either direction.
Well, in order to, Katie, did you want to add anything? Do you have any?
Well, in light of what's been said, would you have any interest, Jack?
Well, I've enjoyed working with this. I would be glad to continue. I think we've got a lot of things going, but all of us, anyone here would be a great mayor pro tem. So I'm not stuck, but I do enjoy what we're doing. So I have no problem. I would enjoy staying.
My question was really, would you take the position of mayor? Would you be interested in that?
No, I think Steve's done a great job, and I think he's really got that under control. He does a great job with the meeting, so I don't mind stepping in now and then, but I'm not interested in the mayor, no, just at the mayor pro tem.
I was wondering that too.
But Cheryl, you would consider it.
At some point, yeah. I don't know if the time is now, but at some point.
And it's a
Yeah.
2-year rotation, so we've been doing this in 2 years.
Yes.
Okay.
So we could, if this is your chance to make a nomination, we'll continue the way with what we're doing now.
Do we get public comment next year?
Yeah, we can, we've had our opportunity to speak, so
I didn't
public
even
comment.
know the guy.
No, that's fine. Is there any public comment? Please come on up.
A lot of math. That's my own. Anyway, no disrespect to Mayor Ladley, but I would like to see a rotation instead. I think 4 years is a long time, and I would like to see someone from the council as be our new mayor. I think it's important to just share everyone here. I'm really impressed with, and congratulations to with the people that are council members, but I'd also like to see you just have new ideas and just a new energy, and it's important that we do that.
If any of you would like to nominate a different person, we can certainly do that at this time. It's we need to kind of start off with someone who would like to make a change and would like to nominate someone to make that change.
I'd like to nominate Cheryl.
I second that nomination.
And we have to have a first and a second, so I think we need a vote, so. Okay, that's you.
I got a first by Tuttle and a second by Ms. Breckenridge to nominate Cheryl Kelly to be Trinidad's next mayor, and we'll start with Tuttle for a vote. And Breckenridge. Yes, it's Kate. I'm sorry. Let's casual it. Kate.
I vote for Cheryl.
Councilmember West.
Having a hard time with this. I think Steve's done a good job, but I think with the kind of what's going, I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. So congratulations, Cheryl.
So it passes. Oh, Steve, yeah, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, I absolutely support Cheryl for mayor. Yeah, thank you very much for offering to lead. It was an aye.
That's- And Councilmember Kelly, I suppose, might as well vote too.
Okay, I'll vote aye with a comment, if I'm allowed, which is I'd like to thank Mayor Ladwig for his service, the tremendous dedication, and I know he's going to continue on the council and maybe mayor again in the next rotation. So, we're a small community, so thank you, Steve.
And I want to add something else that, Steve and I meet with Eli every Monday. I think you didn't know that. Now you do. Good guy. Well, you have a lot of extra time, so I know that.
Yeah, I'm retired, that helps.
But we've had some good discussions, and Steve's been very important. So Steve, I'm going to make the offer, if you would want to consider continuing with these meetings and being pro temp. I think that might be, personally, I think that might be a really good idea. I think you've been very important to those meetings. And so I'm gonna go ahead and step back and nominate you for mayor pro temp.
Thank you, Jack. I would, yeah, I would very much like to be involved. Those meetings keep me connected to city business, and for continuity's sake, I would love to be involved. So I would accept that if there's other folks on the council who want to step into that role as stated before, but I would accept that nomination.
Okay, sounds like it's up to you, Gabe.
So with Mayor Pro Tem possibly, Ladwig's acceptance, that would be a first by Councilmember West, second by Tuttle, to nominate Steve Ladwig as Mayor Pro Tem, and we'll start with Tuttle.
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
West,
Yes.
and Aye. And Steve, you accept?
Sure.
Unanimous.
I do want to add that I'm gonna miss those meetings. They were very serious all the time. But I do appreciate what we did, what we accomplished, and those were generally to look at what we're coming up against in the next meeting, our next meeting. So I need to get together and go over the kinds of things we're working on. Great opportunity. So I hope you enjoy it. Cheryl, I will miss them. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack, for your undying dedication.
I know that things are probably completely off topic the whole time if I'm not there, but all right. That's inside.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay, so we're done with, we've got our new officers in place. So we are now on to, that was 3. So we're on to item number 4 now, which is the presentation discussion with Pacific Security regarding supplemental public safety options for Trinidad and preliminary introduction of the community ambassador program. If you like to go to you or to Cheryl.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, we could turn it over to Cheryl, because she's been in touch with Gene.
Okay, so this is, it's kind of a 2-part discussion. I know Steve's gonna cover another program called an ambassador program, but I invited Gene Bass here from Pacific Security. We've been in dialogue for about 6 months now, and with Eli and I. And the idea was to augment our law enforcement, and we will eventually potentially have more law enforcement as more and more people get trained up, but we don't know for sure. And in the meantime, we felt that we had some gaps, and we had some citizens who were very concerned, especially about some of the hotspots. So anyway, I invited Gene here. We've been kind of going back and forth about some coverage, and I wanted him to have a chance to just introduce himself and the company, and maybe take any questions that might come up.
Well, is that a problem, Eureka? My name is Gene Bass. I'm the owner and qualified manager for Pacific Coast Security. We've been in business since '96. Not a huge company. We've always kept under about 50 employees tops. We have all local management. We don't do anything outside of say the tri-counties. We stay mostly in the 3 counties. We do quite a bit of variety of stuff. Everybody else says, what kind of security do you do? And I said, well, whatever pays us. We do everything from private events to government entities to patrol services for government and private businesses. We have a great working relationship with all the law enforcement locally. I don't think we've ever done anything particular in Trinidad. In the past, I think we've done events out here and stuff, but nothing for this. We have done similar projects for Eureka. We've worked with the city of Eureka, the Business Improvement District. Slipping my Charlotte McDonald's. This is the Old Town group that runs the Old Town. You may know that name, but we did their program for years down there through the city, and we were monitored by EPD. So we were essentially a force multiplier for them. Just mainly focusing on burglary prevention and safety for the tourists and folks down in Old Town. Main Street, yes, it's slipping my brain. I'm getting older. Been a resident here for going on 55 years in January. Love it here. I send, fortunately, all the tourists that ask me where to go, I send them to Trinidad. So not just saying that, it's true. I think you guys got a great town here. I would love to see it stay outside of our crime bubble, so to speak. Eureka is pretty much under siege, as well as Humboldt County in general. We're all suffering from the same problems of understaffing for law enforcement. I just was sending out some text messages tonight. I wasn't exactly sure this week, but last I heard, our Eureka Police Department was down something like 15 positions, and the Sheriff's Department was also down a bunch of positions. People ask me often, you know, I do neighborhood watching, crime prevention free. I volunteer for some agencies. And people say, what's your angle? I said, well, I don't have an angle. I make money off crime. So prevention is just something I would prefer over making money. I have 4 kids. I would love to see this community stay safe.
That's great. I don't know if Eli, if you had anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I spoke to King On, who's the executive director of Sarah, our insurance company. So he did say that there's 50 cities altogether in Sarah. He said a number of them do have private security. They're always concerned about the contract, so they wanted to make sure that we had that they'll review our contract. And as far as the level of security, they were suggesting not to carry firearms. And then, of course, basically, the security would be observing, reporting, and at the same time calling the sheriff if anything needs to be done. And basically, their presence would be a deterrent to crime. Yeah, so that's basically what he was commenting on. He said that generally they proactively engage the law enforcement as needed. So.
Yeah, so as a trend, pretty much in the United States, everybody's suffering from law enforcement shortages right now, and unfortunately, being in uniform is not super popular as it once was. I think the stats I looked at were roughly about the same amount of police officers as security in the state of California, about 150,000. Levels of training for security run the gamut. It's not the old days of when we think about security, working at the mills, you know, punching the key clocks. I've personally got retired police officers that work for me. Some of them have military background, so they're good people and they care about the community. We generally, when we put somebody on site, we try to fit them with the need, like we're talking about in armed security. That's not a super popular position right now to dress in uniform unarmed, but we do have some officers that will do that. You know, and a lot of that has to do with, you know, the current crime stats. And I don't think you guys, I mean, we'll have to look through your crime stats. I don't think there's anything glaring here. So I think it would be fine.
Well, I'm going to ask a quick question. I just want to know, what are the hours that you can keep?
Well, we could work 24 hours a day, but I don't think you want to pay us to do that. So just, I think what we had talked about, we're doing some, getting our feet wet, so to speak. doing some smaller 6-hour shifts, and I don't know that those have been nailed down, but there were just some trial area. I understand you guys got a few spots in town where you might have some concerns about loitering and other issues, but our primary focus would be whatever you guys felt was important.
You generally are going to be see these people and trying to work with them. It's not like a police type activity.
So we have a lot of experience. We do shopping malls are a real challenge because technically it's private property, but we want to allow people access. So there is some access issues, but for the most part, we just engage people and try to get them to move along civilly if they're not doing business with, say, your local market or something, or it's all private property, so you guys have the discretion as far as your businesses go, what you want to allow on your property. Some merchants don't mind it, some do. So it's beneficial for us. We can respond typically for a town like this. I can imagine our response time would be less than a couple minutes. Which is, in all due respect to the sheriff's department, a drastic response, a better response time if you have to call. I mean, even for us, if we have to call law enforcement, our average wait time, even for the city of Arcadia, is 20 to 30 minutes.
So anyone else have a question?
Yes, I did. So the idea being that you would be in town and if you weren't encountering a particular event, it would be your presence that would be a deterrent and a reassurance.
So I can't tell you because I'm not sure what you guys have talked about, what you expect for needs, but I can tell you how it works for most clients of this type of situation. As when we're not actively doing something, we're just doing preventative stuff. Like I heard some concerns about the trail. I don't know if that's in your city, but we can surely monitor that. I know a lot of people when we're out and about doing jobs, people even though we do a lot of the mini marts, people say, well, the reason I stopped here 1 in the morning is because I saw security. So I think people tend to feel safer if there's some sort of presence in certain areas. I don't know. I'm not super familiar how your city's working.
You would have so many hours a week or a month that you would be on here in Trinidad.
Yeah,
a visible presence.
Yeah, so we have marked vehicles. They clearly say security. They don't say police or anything. They say our company name and security on the vehicles. I would imagine because it's a smaller town, a lot of the foot patrol. But that being said, I'm not super familiar with what you guys want covered, but that's completely up to the client.
I mean, just the one piece of background, Katie, I think this came up before you were attending the city council meetings, but it kind of all this genesis of this a bit was complaints from all of the volunteer staff over at the library and the museum and so forth, that they were receiving threats and the threats were violent. And they were afraid to go to work. We lost a volunteer, et cetera. And the police have tried to step up their actions, but then we checked back again and it was still happening. So it wasn't just loitering, it was like literally physical. So we thought, well, maybe we need a little bit of support. And so that was the genesis of the idea anyway.
So a lot of the problems that people face, like she's explaining, is not necessarily that those folks are breaking the law, but they may be under the influence of something or mentally challenged. We have a lot of that in Eureka, and really having those issues is not breaking the law. So what we do is just ask people to move along. I would say 99.9% of the time they're cooperative, and they just, they leave the area. But there's that time frame for if you're having a problem at, say, a library and you've got an elderly, like our library is mostly elderly women. If you have to call the sheriff's department, they may be best case scenario 5-10 minutes out. That's a long time to wait and an aggressive person. So a lot of times we would definitely help you with that type of stuff, but a lot of it's just asking people to, comply with your policies that you have for the library as far as, if they're using the facility. I'm not sure of the layout of the facility, but our library in Eureka is used to be a KOA campground for quite a while, and fenced off some areas. was a real mess. So, it's about patrol, and right now, most agencies have put loitering and trespassing on the low priority call list. It's just a sign of the times. They have to triage all these calls that come in, and you guys have a significant amount of calls you feel like, but those are just calls that go reported. So how many times has somebody needed law enforcement or had their car broken into that report that we don't really know, and that's pretty much statewide.
Thank you. Mayor Gladwin?
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Your hand is up, that's why I noticed.
It is? Oh, so I was scratching my, yeah.
Wait, never mind. It's a hand on your screen, but that's okay. Jack, do you have anything you'd like to ask?
We have it in our budget to hire a security team.
I think we did look at a budget for part-time resources, and I believe it's in the budget, right, Eli?
Oh, yeah, yes.
So I would mention, I'm not a salesman, but I would imagine like any small government, you guys are loaded with cash. So there's some potential, you have quite a few businesses here to get your business folks together and say, hey, do you want to co-op this? That's what we do most successfully in a lot of areas. It's businesses, even if they're door apart, will co-op that hourly rate, and it's successful. We've got businesses that have been doing that for years, and they're happy because they pay a fraction of the hourly rate that they normally would, and they still get the same coverage. In a city like this, that could work very well. I'm just guessing. I don't know how many businesses you have here, but it's always an option, and you do have the
Merchants Market and Chevron.
yeah, I know there's a rancheria still on the pier, so there's opportunities to co-op stuff like that and still get the same sort of preventative security that you would be paying for as a government entity, and just co-op with private entities. Just throwing that out there.
Would the citizens of the town have a special number to call you guys, or would we still call 911?
Well, I we give you a real good rate for the pilot project. We do 90% or more of our accounts do have a dedicated phone number to call. Sadly enough, my phone's on 24/7, and my business line rings to my cell phone. And we do have direct communications to all our officers, so all of us can talk, kind of like the Nextel thing. We can talk directly to each other. So we have a pretty good communication system. All our officers are GPS tracked when they're on duty, and for safety purposes, where they're at if there's a problem.
If there's no questions from the council, is there anybody in the community that would like to ask a question? Please come to the podium if you got to share. Sorry.
Oh, this. Of course, down my tippy toes. I guess I just had a couple of questions. One, thank you guys, the council, for addressing. I feel like I've been asleep at the wheel a little bit. This is the first I'm hearing about this, and it sounds like it's been ongoing for 6 months. So I guess I'm curious, how close is the city to inking a contract, moving forward with this? Where are we with this? I guess is my first question.
What Cheryl was getting at, we had mentioned it during the budget time as a possibility. And Cheryl and I had met Gene and talked to him before. This is the first time that the council is having this opportunity.
Okay, so it's not about to go to action. There's going to be time for community input involvement, that kind of stuff. Okay. And then, so is it fair to say that a scope of services and what a typical 6-hour shift would look like hasn't even been broached or discussed yet? As far as the council and I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, not
what is this?
Yeah, so we've discussed it conceptually as a pilot, and we have discussed some part-time shifts. I won't go into detail about what those are, but I believe it'd be a set number of hours per week. And that's about as far as we've gotten. We had to give an idea of what the coverage model might look like to get an idea of the cost to put it in the budget. And then if it was approved at the council, then we would go ahead with a pilot project to see if it worked out and if it beneficial.
Okay, all right, so nothing's happening tonight, which is good. And I guess I would just make a comment. The character of this town that I've enjoyed in my short time as a resident, and as a resident really proximal to some kind of hotspots, right? I'm very proximal. We have a lot of folks that come to town and travel around the county throughout the day. I see a lot of folks enjoying our benches and our vistas, and then I see them elsewhere when I go about my business. And I want to make sure that whatever approach we do take, we continue to welcome everybody to our community, and that we're not doing a wholesale campaign of moving everybody on. I also am acutely aware of some of the concerns over at the museum, and I believe some of that's also private land. So I don't know where that obligation falls between, you know, for us and them and that kind of stuff, and making sure everybody's doing as much as they can, I guess. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Adora, please.
Thanks, John.
Different direction that I thought would. First of all, thank you for what you do. The uniform doesn't, you're a cop to people, they don't know your security, right, or whatever, you're a cop, and I appreciate what you do out there in the citizens. The thing that I wanted to talk to about, looking at private security, my understanding is that we pay in the city for a full-time officer and a part-time officer under a grant. I believe that we still have those monies, and we consistently have our citizens in town saying, where's the police, where's the police? And now we're looking at bringing in another agency basically to do our law enforcement. I know we've got a contract, we've signed it, we've got to pay and follow through with what we've done. But now we're looking at spending more money on yet another agency. And I don't believe, and it's not an issue, I don't think that we can just hire a security office to do the city's policing. They're not on the same, and I don't mean to use the word level. The training is different. We're talking about apples and oranges when you're paying for police with a lot more training from security. And my only point of, I'm not trying to be a smarty or anything. The only thing is this time I'd like the citizens to know exactly what we're paying for. Something seems to be lost in the cracks on the last contract because we get from the county, sorry, we don't have the officers, and we'll get there when we get there. There's just a couple things I want to point out. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that you have arrest powers. Security officers don't have arrest powers. So when you're called to a call, your main thing is to hold on to someone, observe and report, and wait for the same sheriff's deputy to come that we're waiting for to come right now.
We do have arrest authority. Under citizens arrest, just like you would.
Citizens arrest.
Yeah, and that being said, we make a substantial number of arrests. It's up to the agency whether they want to take them to jail or site police them. Try to avoid that, but we absolutely make arrests.
Okay, and you don't put anybody in the back of a police car.
We don't
They bring it
transport.
down to
If they're cooperative, we do not place them in a car, but if they're uncooperative, we would probably place them. And we
you'd be waiting for the same people that we're waiting for right now. The main issues that we have in Trinidad with crime are residential burglaries. That's going, people that aren't aware, it's going into the houses, going into cars and stealing. Car break-ins, I've said that, parking issues, noise issues. The thing I want to, dog issues, dogs at the leash. If we call you, and I was surprised to say that you might, depending on the contract, you might come from another area to answer these calls for us. I was thinking we were gonna get our security officer in town. But
we wouldn't dedicate. No, it wouldn't come out there.
he would be here. And if we called your officer on, if you were made aware of the ordinance that the city had, vacation rentals, parking, would you dog leash, would you address those issues? And could you address those by maybe telling people to leave a party cite somebody that has a dog off the leash, are you able to do that yourself, or do you have to again wait for the county personnel to come and handle that?
I'm not aware of how your city charter is set up, but I know the city of Eureka has utilized private security to do parking enforcement or EMC stuff. It's possible. I don't know how your charter is set up. And so it's completely up to you guys. It would obviously be something to look at with the contract.
I appreciate your answers. I just hope that the city, if we choose to take on the expense of another agency to protect us, knows exactly what we're getting for our money this time. And, you know, they've got their place in law enforcement, but we're missing the top notch in hiring down here where their jurisdiction lies. So I hope you take a strong look at that and get some security. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do want to add a footnote to make Dora aware that we used to have the contract with the sheriffs for the one dedicated officer and then an additional half officer. But in the last year to 2 years, they have been unable to provide us with dedicated officers. So as a result, we just have patrols that come through the city, approximately 3 per day. So the intent here was to have someone such as Pacific Security where they can actually be on the ground, physically be seen, and it would create a deterrent, hopefully, and especially in the area that we seem to have more traffic, as far as foot traffic, meaning between Murphy's to Chevron to the park, the library, the museum, and then, as was mentioned, they could also walk along the trails, which having a presence along the trails, I think would be helpful. Because even when we did have the dedicated sheriffs, I don't think they really walked the trails that I was aware of. I mean, they would be around and check where the trails are, but not necessarily walk them. So I think that would be an added presence. And this was Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. You can go ahead and come up for a comment.
Great.
All right, I need you to come on up. That's fine. We'll keep it going.
I just think you should, I think we should try this pilot program. Because
Yeah.
I have a lot, we see what I'm at. I think we should try this pilot program, for all the reason you're stating. We have a major shortage of law enforcement, and that's throughout the country. The other issue is that the response time is unsatisfactory. It's just, I mean, they're doing their best, law enforcement's doing their best, but it's not happening. And then the other issue is exactly what you're saying, is we need this presence to show that there's somebody's here besides, all the lights are out, it's night, or even during the day. And, I go to the library all the time, and it is an issue. I just remember before we did have the law enforcement, that true, and for a while.
Sure.
That did help, but before that we didn't. It was a big issue. We need someone to control, we need somebody to just walk up to people, do the things that you're trained to do. I just think that's really important. That's been an issue for a long time in Trinidad. Thank you.
Eli, I had a question. When we lost the sheriff, 1.5 sheriffs, did we stop paying them?
We got a new contract. So the contract is geared towards the patrols, and it's much less than the prior contract.
We'll be getting with this kind of this going on. Will we have a chance of getting some of that measure? But not Z. But
Measure C?
was that?
Yeah, we'll seek it. Yeah, we'll seek the measure.
It's kind of be an inspiration for them to think about.
Right.
Because they dropped us because we couldn't get a sheriff last time. So we're hoping this will encourage the county to put together, add us onto their list of being able to supply us with some extra money. That might help pay for this. So this is good idea.
Yeah,
Called Measure Z.
It's not Z,
Yeah,
is it still Z?
it is.
Okay, all right, good, yes,
yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of money goes out to the cities for a lot of law enforcement.
And the contract, was it was drastically reduced because it was geared towards 1.5. And then now it's geared towards 1, as far as, so it was about a third savings from what the prior contract was.
I was gonna say, one of the benefits that was brought up is we do not transport people, and that's actually a benefit to our clients, because if we do make an arrest for, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony arrest, the sheriff's department or CHP would come and transport them, and we would stay here. So, in a real world scenario, you might take a deputy off the street for an hour and a half. They have to get a hospital clearance, it could be 5 hours. So, I'm not disappointed we don't transport, so. It's an asset in our business, because it works out for us.
I think we continually look for is trying to find a way to get people on the spot here. I think that having a presence in the city is it really helps out. So when we look at the library and the museum, and those people are not gonna really want to have people hassling them and not harassing, but hassling and going after them if they're doing things improperly. I think that'll be straightened out area, and that's been one of the biggest problems, too. So I think having somebody there will help some of these things a great deal. So thank you. I think your program sounds great.
One more thing, if I could address, and the gentleman that I brought up the negative side of having security. The courts of the 9th District Court have been pretty clear about people's constitutional right to assemble and even camp on your city streets. So we have no authority, nor does law enforcement, to move a vast majority of what we call travelers. So that does not affect that at all in a public sense. It's more of a private property issue, and that's up to the individual private property owner, how they want to treat that element. I don't think we don't generally, I would say Arcade is probably the most, I would say, politically correct about that type of thing. We don't have any issues with that.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from the council or on Zoom or in the community?
Steve.
Steve, your hand's still up. I think that's why
He
we're.
did raise his hand.
Yeah, no, I was curious if we're gonna get any kind of details about this pilot program, costs, scope of practice, what the services are for that cost. Is that coming at a future meeting?
I don't know if you want to, we did talk a little bit about the hourly rate, and then it's just depends on the number of hours. I know, and again, we try to do these things because of the Brown Act. We want to do as much in public as possible. So we haven't done too much behind the scenes, but we did talk about certain days of the week. We did talk about possibly 4 hours, and then we did talk about 6 hours. And then the rate, I can't remember exactly what rate you had said.
I looked back at my notes, and I don't think we came up with a conclusive rate. There's some general figures that you tell you that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they started about 30%.
Okay.
Which is a deal
Right.
for a pilot program, as we discussed. Regular rate is a little bit more than that. I was wanting to do it as a pilot project to see if you guys work for you guys.
Good.
I think that makes, I think Steve's question then is like, what's the next step? So this was a get acquainted, kind of let the public hear that we're thinking about maybe piloting this program and see if it works for us. So what we can do is come back, maybe Eli and Jean and I can meet, we can come back with a proposed contractual agreement and the rate and the scope and et cetera, in a little bit more packaged.
So probably the best way, because I just went through this with a similar situation, is for us to provide you or your legal department with a sample agreement. And then you can go with that and send it back to you with any revisions or additions that you see fit. Sometimes that can be a trying process, but eventually we do come to an agreement somewhere.
Yeah, that would really help. Thank you.
Okay, I'll send that to you guys.
Very good.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody have any additional questions? comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vasper, great presentation. We appreciate it. And this is only a presentation discussion, so we are going to have steps soon, but we would follow up. So appreciate what you told us.
And you don't need me anymore.
Yes, no, all that. Thanks, sir. You may go home.
All right. Well, I won't be going home. Let's begin some. Guys have a good night.
Thank you. So we have the other half of this is to look at the community ambassador program. I believe Mayor Ladley, you're going to present that. Is that correct?
You know, I thank you. I'm really, really my intention tonight is just to say that there's another discussion going on and very clearly paralleling the discussion we just had, not in place of. So I just want to make sure that for the January meeting, I'll have a lot of details about the community ambassador program that is currently happening in Arcata, where law enforcement individuals train members of the community to work with the local population to provide resources as a first line of awareness of what's happening in the community, with safety as the primary goal. So, like I said, I don't have the finer details. Jack West and Eli and I met with the city manager from Arcata briefly to kind of get an introduction to the project, and I will bring more details at the January meeting. And then hopefully the community then could look at all of these different options and see what direction that we want to go from there. Costs, what the program's all about, what the hours are, training of the individuals, and so on. So I guess I just wanted to dovetail with this discussion that we just had with Gene and say that there are some other efforts underway as well.
I'd like to just add that the presentation was Karen Deemer, the Arcata, and it was a very positive discussion. I really felt like this was another step that might really help having people on the ground in Arcata and helping to look at what's going on and step in and give us a hand with it. So it's a nice program. It's not police work, but it's people out there trying to intervene and help notify us of things that are going on, doing some help. So it looks like another program that might be very good. So we'll be bringing those things back to you. Does anyone have a question about what Mayor Ladley was talking about?
No, I looked online and it looked like a really interesting program. I think the two, potentially we could pilot both and see what works best, or maybe we only need one. So.
There is more information out there. So, you see it and there's more out there. So you can, before the next meeting, if you'd like to look at it, there's information about the ambassador program. Jack, do you have something you want to do? Anyone in the community have a question about the ambassador program? Oh, and I'm sorry, Nita, I can't see you back there, so you have to. Yeah.
How do we recruit the volunteers for this program?
Sorry, how do we recruit volunteers? Like I said, next, what I'd like to do is do a short presentation about the ambassador program, including how to become involved. So the city manager from Arcata, Karen Deemer, gave us, the budget, the training packet, the schedule, the expectations, and all that. So I'd like to present that in sort of a clear and coherent way. Maybe even a PowerPoint, something fancy like that, just so that everybody has a chance to see what it's about, and then see if we have any interest from within the community. Ideally, this would be an opportunity for someone within the community who already knows the community to work as an ambassador. So that's the initial sort of coverage of what this topic will be in January.
When you do the PowerPoint, could you include how the volunteers are recruited and if they do a background check?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I believe, unless there's someone else with a question, I don't see any hands up there. So I think we are ready to move on to number 5. And this is a discussion decision regarding public service announcement concerning the Trinidad leash law. And that was, go back and remember what Catherine Burleson, a letter she read to us. And you've all heard about her experience. So we'll, I think you have some information for this one.
Yeah, so this was brought to our attention after it had happened, and we were concerned. Gabe and I got on the phone and talked with Russ Gantz, our city attorney, and part of that conversation was whether or not a public service announcement would be helpful. So I'll just turn it over to Gabe because he actually drafted the public service announcement before it was reviewed by our city attorney.
Thank you, Eli. I don't have too much to add. I think we all have heard what happened to Miss Burleson. And I had a conversation with her. She came to the office and sat down and had a heart-to-heart talk. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of it happened without, you know, with a few witnesses, but even some of the follow-up reports and things that occurred with law enforcement happened off-site at the animal hospital, apparently. So I think with that being investigated, turned over to law enforcement and animal control, the first thing we thought as staff is, see, what can we do here to you know, contribute to you know, maybe some preventative action. And, you know, putting out a PSA, a public service announcement, doesn't always, you know, mean that you're going to get full compliance. But this is something that, you know, since Eli turned it over to me, I'll add just a few little things here. I mean, this is something that I've been hearing for a while as a problem, mainly from the dog pet community. A lot of folks, certain residents have told me over the years that they avoid going to the beaches, perhaps at certain times of the day, and they strategically target specific times because there's less animals, you know, on the beaches. And, you know, we drafted this PSA to kind of let the community know they're certainly welcome. I mean, these are public beaches. They belong to everyone, not just the city of Trinidad. But we do have a law here that is the law of Trinidad, and we do expect it to be followed. So we are hoping that a PSA here would, you know, kind of reinforce that you're welcome, but please follow our laws. And that's kind of it. Excuse
me, what is the law on the beach?
The beaches are really interesting, and we do share the state beach over here facing west, the one people go to watch the sunset. The rule of thumb is basically from the Marine Lab out west, there's kind of an imaginary line, and that imaginary line is state park to the north, part of the state park complex and state ownership. And then to the south, it's basically public city beach, Old Home Beach or Indian Beach, whatever it's referred to by the community or known as the beach below where the old lighthouse sat. That is fully within the city's jurisdiction. And the city has a leash law, period. You know, whenever a dog is off premise, it needs to be under care and command, but also restraint. And I believe the state parks has the same policy. Of course, you know, they have a lot more land to patrol, and they don't necessarily have the parks rangers to always be out there looking. And you know, the county itself over there at Clam Beach, I don't know exactly what the county's policies are, but I know there's places where pets are allowed off leash. So it's a little bit of a mix, and you know, that miscommunication can confuse the public. But you know, we want to kind of make it, we're suggesting that the council make a statement. Whether the five of you agree on this or not, it's totally your call.
And some of our signs are a little bit misleading too, I understand. We need to do a better job of letting the public know what to do. But this is one of the things I think, you know, here we have an event, we're talking about two programs that would have people here where they could actually see what's going on. And I know I've heard complaints from community members that people feel they have a right not to worry about their dogs. And So I think this is a great start to start this leash law and see if we can follow up with it. So I think the first thing, one of the things I think is to start getting exactly what that leash law is and make sure people know what's out there. And it's all written up in our policy, right? There's a
Yeah.
it's a policy.
It's an ordinance.
Yeah.
And in the public service announcement here, our city attorney, Russ Gans, was careful to very clear about what that says. You know, so if that is added in here, just for everyone's reference, and also remember that this is all throughout town. This isn't just on the beaches. This is on the trails. This is anywhere where your dog is not on your own premise.
So does the leash law cover all the beaches?
It covers everything within the city property. So the beaches, the ones that Gabe had indicated are city beaches, those would be covered.
Not state beaches.
Not the state beach, but the state beach is covered under state law, which from our understanding has a similar requirement.
But we don't believe.
No,
The reason I was asking and with something of an objecting tone was that coming from Los Angeles, then you could not go on the beach with your dog. You could even with a leash, and it was a real problem to dog owners who want to let their dogs run free. So I think there was one designated area down in Huntington Beach, which is far south. And anyhow, the dog owners really didn't like it. What are you going to do? So I'm wondering, is there any way that this beach has dog hours, dog-free hours, but all these other beaches, but to just across the board have no room for the dog owners to let their dogs run free, that's hard.
There's the beach, south of here.
Moonstone Beach, Pine Beach.
Sorry, I was drawing a blank on the name, but Moonstone allows off-leash dogs. I mean, I've noticed on Old Home Beach over the years, it seems like more and more off-leash dogs and more dogs per person. So it's like, it's not just one dog. It's, they bring 4 or 5 dogs and they're running around, and then there's, 10 other people, and it's getting to be a bit of a challenge. And I see people being a little nervous about some of the larger dogs jumping on them and things like that. So, yeah, so I would support kind of reining it in a little bit. It's one thing to let your dog out. It's another to have like a herd of dogs.
Absolutely. And having a strict leash law wouldn't have stopped this thing with the attack, because.
Well, actually, it could be. I mean, if he's going to come into town, he puts his dog out at their show. It's like a show dog out here, and we could have, if we had, I don't know if it was how it's written up, but I mean, we could possibly have those dogs leashed within the truck so they can't escape and run out.
Because they ran out of.
Right. So there may be ways that we could do that. We'd have to start putting that together. But
yeah. So technically, he would have to keep them in the vehicle. But once they go out the vehicle, it's covered by the leash law. So, and everyone should be aware of that. So generally speaking, I think when there's dog parks, I think that's an ideal place to have dogs off leash. But with beaches, and I think, unless, like you said, Moonstone, but and I worked for the city of Huntington Beach, so I know where they have that, but it would have to be someplace where it's known, so people don't unexpectedly go there, either with their dog that might not like to be with other dogs, or go there with little children that could be attacked, or just themselves. I mean, some people just do not like to have animals around them, and it's, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but I've run across some people, and we were in a hotel in San Francisco, and as soon as the maid opened the door, our dog ran after her and she went running down the hallway. So, she didn't like dogs. So So, yeah, it's just like, it is something that, is welcome when you do have like a separate dog park. Then it's clearly indicated and it's fenced off.
But how do we enforce it? We don't even have the sheriffs to come and take care of the major issues.
No, so in our case, it's strictly the leash law. And we're too small of a city. And because we only have a population of a little over 300. Because usually when you do have a dog park, then people from other cities show up also, because they might not have a dog. So Eureka has a dog. So, that's one way to utilize it. It's a larger city. But yeah, specifically this in here says Trinidad Municipal Code Chapter 6.04, which requires all dogs to be physically restrained by leash or other physical constraint while off the premises of the owner within the city. So that's what we'll have to enforce, because certainly the photos of the dog that was attacked, we're really disturbing. And they made it all the way to the New York Post. So.
I'd like to know, since we have a decision regarding public service announcements, so we're really looking at just we've already got the law, we know we want to enforce it. So this is just putting this public service announcement out. And so that's what we're looking at tonight.
Right.
Okay, so are there any other questions? Now let's look at the public service announcement. Is there anybody have a question about putting that out to people to see? Any more comments that we have from Steve? Do you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning the fact that the county, since we've in Moonstone Beach, Clam Beach, the county does have a voice control element to their ordinance that a dog can be off leash if the owner has voice control over the dog. And I'm not saying we add that to our ordinance, but I think it bears at least some closer look at our ordinance and then a discussion whether or not we want to include that or make the clear distinction that they have to be on leash, because there are plenty of dog owners who have dogs that are responsible and have attacked. So I just want to make sure that we're considering, while what happened to Ms. Burleson is absolutely important that we address tonight with this public service announcement. And there are lots of folks in town and the community that bring dogs that don't require this sort of concern. So it's just something I think we look at in the future. But I just want to make that distinction.
Any more comments from the council? Anybody in the city? Anybody else want to make a comment? All right, please.
Well, I don't always sit here meeting after meeting after meeting, saying, how are we gonna fix the leash law when there's nobody to write the ticket? There's nobody to go up to somebody and say, you can look at somebody down there and tell them what to do with their dog, and you're probably gonna get your teeth bashed in. Or when they've completely ripped your dog apart, you'd like them to pay for the vet bills. Who is going to enforce that? And until we quit trying to come up with these good ideas for everything else, the public service that tells people we have a law, maybe that'll help with some liability when we didn't do anything. But until we get enforcement, we could just wad up the ordinance and throw it in the garbage can. There's nothing there for it. And there was something else I was going to say that I always forget because I get so upset. So I think I'll just sit down and shut up. But we have to somehow, I know what I was going to say. Usually when it comes up with who's going to enforce the dog laws, because the sheriff has told us they're not going to, the answer that we get from the city is that we have a contract with animal control. So if we do have this contract with animal control, maybe we don't anymore.
No, we do.
A phone call to animal control 5 miles up the road would get a response here faster than a deputy sheriff. I know they're shorthanded too, they're all over the county. But maybe a call should go to animal control to come out here and control the animal and write the ticket to the person owning it. So something can go to court, or if the person with their dog ripped up wants litigation, they can show that the ticket was written. But until the ticket gets written, we may as well enjoy cookies, because nothing is gonna happen. And I hate to be Debbie Downer, but follow the process through. And there is no end on this process. So sorry.
I'll just interject. So yes, we stay in touch with animal control. We do have a contract with animal control. And specifically in Delmore County, where this individual Frank lives, the animal control there is addressing the situation. But basically, this is about as much as we can do. The only other way to do it is to have code enforcement that you hire. And if you want to cover all the time, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you never know when something like this could happen. So there is no real logical way to do it, especially for a city of our size. But you know, if you're in a large city like Los Angeles, where you could have people on staff like that for code enforcement 24/7, you know, then it makes sense. So in our case, you know, putting the word out there, trying to encourage people to respect and have their dogs on a leash is one step. And then beyond that, it does help with the enforcement for the sheriffs and animal control, that they're aware that we do have something on the books that can be enforced. Because a lot of times when we talk to them about some parking issues, the first thing they say is, you know, what does your municipal code say? So that's about all we could do for our size, but we're trying to be proactive. The other thing that we had talked about was the fact of specifically with Frank Mallett and his dogs, that we would like the community to make us aware if he does show up again. I know he occasionally had showed up in the past in front of Beachcomber, but as far as I know now, he's lying low and not circulating much. But if he does show up, to please make the city staff aware of it so we could follow through. Because then we may try to take some more drastic action, because it has been mentioned about like a restraining order if it's possible. It was brought up by our mayor and mayor pro tem at one of our meetings. I brought it up to the city attorney, but basically, you know, we have to find out, you know, when is here, and then especially if it's more repeated, then we could get possibly some kind of restraint. But we're willing to take whatever steps are necessary that you know, that are feasible, you know. And like I said, I mean, to really cover the law properly, the best way to enforce it is if you do have code enforcement all the time. And that ends up being quite difficult.
Thank you. We also should probably just go back and look at what we've got on paper and see what we have and see if maybe we can improve it. If that would be something we could do as a council. Do we have anybody else? Any more comments from the council or the community?
Anyway, I live in West Haven, and I want to point out that Clam Beach, which is huge, it's 5 miles long, is only about 5 miles down the road. Have a home service announcement. We encourage people. You want to let your dog in the woods. Nobody's going to do that. And please don't encourage people to use the Bluestone Beach. We already have an enormous problem in Bluestone. We don't need any additional free roaming dogs.
Thank you. I don't see any hands up there, and I don't see anybody else. I think we've got to come up with a decision. So if somebody would like to make a motion to After, so we can have a public service, if we can send this public service out, we need to make a motion to do that.
I'll move to, sorry. I move that Cheryl can make the motion.
I was gonna make a motion regarding the public service announcement concerning Trinidad leash law to approve doing the public service announcement.
Second.
We got a first and a second, so Gabe, would you take account, please?
Yeah, first, Mayor Kelly. Seconded by Councilmember Ladwig to.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem, sorry. To approve the public service announcement and authorize it be sent to the press. Starting with Mayor Pro Tem Ladwig,
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Kelly. West
Yes.
and Kate.
Yes.
Passes unanimous.
All right, thank you very much. We're gonna move on to item number.
Excuse me, what you do, we are agreed that we're going to return to this item. It's
Actually, we are going to have a future agenda item right at the end of this meeting. That'd be a great spot to say, let's make sure we get back. Okay, thank you. Great, thank you. All right, we have number 6 is a discussion decision regarding appointment of 2 council members to participate in a government to government meeting with the Trinidad Rancheria. And Eli, you can need to explain that to us.
Sure. So the Trinidad Rancheria has requested a government to government meeting with the city. And our policy provides for 2 council members as an ad hoc committee. That's versus a standing committee. So that we're not a violation of the Brown Act, because if it is a standing committee, then it would be a violation of the Brown Act. So that's why, even though we brought this up before, the best way to do it with talking with the attorney seems to be that each time there is a request that we address it on the council level. So it's not like the same 2 people that were in a prior meeting. So the Rancheria has requested the G2G, which is short for the government to government, to talk about the Trinidad Trails policy and also to talk about their proposed Trinidad Rancheria Interpretive Center in the harbor. And then there's also some land that is requested by the Trinidad Rancheria, meaning a small piece of land, which is, it's not even a significant amount. It's like maybe a 50 by 50 feet or 60 or 70 feet by 70. And in exchange, it was suggested by our city attorney that we could provide that for their interpretive center, but we would receive an equal amount of land somewhere else in the harbor. And the Rancheria is suggesting possibly having it by Trinidad Head, but it would be an area that the Rancheria currently has. So that would be part of this discussion. So that's it. It's, hopefully the council can appoint, whichever 2 council members would like to be in that government to government meeting.
I do want to tell you that the Rancheria is a good organization to work with. They do a very nice job. So it's a good place to get a good feel for what government to government means. So it's a good experience as well. Help us to have people do it. So it would be nice for us to, would any of you like to, would this be something you'd like to do to get a chance to work with in a government position? Sure.
I was going to nominate you, Jack. Because of the trail.
I know. Is this a one-time thing?
This would be a one-time.
Right.
You,
I was gonna say, I was gonna nominate you because you're so good with the trails. Because you know it so well. So, but first of all, let's see if anybody would you like to take a stab at trying?
I'm probably the least qualified person to deal with Rancheria at this point. I will get up to speed.
Can I bring? Sorry, can I just, for clarification's sake, if I may, and not to interrupt Katie, but to add to what you're saying. These government to government meetings are two counselors, and so no decisions are made. It's anything that happens that's an action would come back to our council. So it's really just it really is just a listening tour and a great opportunity to start building those awarenesses and connections with different folks in the community. So I just want to make sure that our newer council members knew that these government to government meetings will always be followed by a full council meeting if any action is taken place.
But I'd certainly be interested. I just don't want to put my foot in it.
I want to add that the first time went to one fairly soon after I got on the council. And it was a little bit overwhelming, but that was somewhere you end up breaking down that issue. You get in there and you understand what's going on. So, if you were interested in this, and this is a good thing, good time to go. You will learn a lot. And
When are the meetings? That's another point.
They were, excuse me, they were suggesting having a meeting in mid-January. They didn't identify the exact time, but usually it's been either like late morning or early afternoon, usually.
Do you think we could arrange it on a Friday?
Uh,
My work schedule.
Yeah, no, I mean, we would have to see because usually they like to have their whole tribal council. So it's when their tribal council meets, and I've never known their council to meet on a Friday. Usually it is like either Wednesday or Thursday, I think.
okay, I would be honored to be able to do this. Well, we'll need someone else. So let's Jack, are you interested in this at all? Or is it something you would be able to do if you wanted to?
On this opportunity, but maybe a future one. I would recommend Steve because he's
And I was at the last one, so I don't want it to become an issue of the same people. It was Cheryl and I last time, so maybe that doesn't really matter if it's a different composition. So I just want to put that out there. I'm happy to participate. I just don't want to step in any kind of uncharted waters. Eli, any thoughts on that? If the policy allows, it's just a different composition, so it's not the exact same two people.
Yeah, I think, first of all, already Jack would be one, so that would create a different composition, like you said.
Okay, I'm happy to participate.
Okay, yeah, number two, I think just because we did bring it back to the council to try to reform this G to G rather than trying to utilize the prior one, I think that would work out.
Okay, great.
Then it sounds like we have to make a decision, so we do have to appoint. So if we could have someone make a motion to get this started, that would be great.
I move that Jack West and Ludwig do be the representatives for the G2G.
And second that.
All right, we have a motion in a second, so Gabe, would you please do your thing?
I will go right to the vote to nominate council members West and Ladwig to participate in GDT with the Rancheria. We'll start with Mayor
Steve says aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
West.
Aye.
Breckenridge.
Aye.
Passes unanimous.
All right, thank you. And we're moving on to number 7, which is another decision regarding planning commissioner appointments to fill 3 to 4 year terms. I hope you all have looked at these letters that we received from, I have to look here for Christopher Slay and Stephen, is it Coppola? I will tell you right off the bat from my point of view. I'm sorry, we have also Aaron Aikinen who is here. Sorry, I kind of feel like you were already there, so I didn't put your name down here. I should have.
And Richard Johnson.
And Richard Johnson. So we have 4 people. Oh, thank you. There's Richard. And those 4 people And I'm sorry, I've read all your letters and looked at them all. These were the two new people that's why I was mentioning those two. These all, Richard's been on there for how many years, Richard, have you been on the planning commission?
I don't recall specifically, but my notes go back to 2005.
Okay. And Aaron, you haven't completed a term because you got put on in the middle of the term, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And then we have the two new members that have it would be Christopher Slay and Stephen Coppola. And all these people sound terrific reading these letters. It's just really some great people that will apply. So we have to make a decision. We have to pick 3 people to fill the positions. So first of all, does anyone have any information or questions about any of the candidates?
I guess I would just comment that having served on the planning commission and Aaron was on the planning commission, that I would support 100% his continuing in his role as planning commissioner. I don't know the other 2 candidates.
All right. Do you have any comments?
No, I didn't get this until an hour ago, so no, I have not.
And
I'll abstain.
okay, and Richard has been doing this a long time, so we have some really good people in the office already, but we have to make before we pick 3 that we would like to see go on. So before we go any further, I would well, Steve, do you have your hand up? I didn't see it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for the floor here. I just wanted to say that I had the chance to sit in the audience for planning commission meetings with Dr. Slay. And I really want to make a strong advocate for Chris joining the planning commission. His attention to detail, his background research, the way he learned the city rules was really quite impressive. And I'd love to see something like that join our planning commission. So I just want to make a strong plug for Dr. Slay. And I don't know if he's in the audience. I don't see. Okay, just want to make sure. Thanks.
I'm going to start with Richard. Did you want to just give us any information about you and your interest in running?
Sure, thank you. I appreciate that. As I mentioned earlier, yes, I've been serving on the planning commission for, I believe, since about 2005. And surprisingly enough, my commitment at that point was that I wanted to be on the planning commission until we completed the general plan update. And I am still willing to make that commitment. And I believe that we are probably at this point closer than ever in achieving that goal of completing the update. And of course, we all recognize that this requires a renewed commitment from all of us to ensure that we have the necessary resources and setting the right priorities to execute on that plan. But I'm clearly confident that we will be able to do that. As was mentioned earlier, I met with Mayor Kelly at this point and some other folks earlier in the month or last month. And we have really renewed our commitment to make sure that this happens. We recognize that it will take a great deal of effort, not only in resources, but in also establishing the right priorities. But I completely believe that we can do this. And I say that because we are now in the process, and we'll look at it tomorrow night, a preliminary plan that indicates that we can complete the general plan update within the next 4 years, which would be within my next appointment, if you so desire for me to serve. So I'm happy to serve one more time. And I certainly am looking forward to making the general plan a high priority and executing on that priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Aaron, would you like to have the microphone? Let us know what you got for us.
Just very quickly, I'll echo everything Richard said, and I've enjoyed the brief 2-year term. I think I've filled on the planning commission. I would like the opportunity to have a full term and tackle that and keep moving on the rest of the business. I think we've got a good group, and I'd love to see some more new member to replace Deputy Diana. She departs us and sunsets into her planning commission retirement, and maybe someday soon that'll be you, Richard, but not yet, hopefully. Thanks.
All right, well, we've got to make a decision, and I think we have. So we're gonna just a moment. And so, before we start, before I bring people in, is there anybody have a comment or a question
I
on the
have a
council?
question.
Yes.
On the planning commission, there are 3 appointed people appointed by the council.
They have a 5-member, 2 of it's like work. They're also in rotating years, so they'll have 2 people are going to be already on, and they'll come up in 2 years.
Oh, there's 5.
And there's 5, and so we have 3 that where we have an opportunity to make a change. If there's no questions from the council, then Steve, your hand is your hand up still, or are you?
No.
Okay, I don't know. Just
It's the yellow. Yeah, on our end, Steve, it shows a white hand in the middle. But
You're just late.
whenever you really raise your hand, it's a yellow one that'll be way up on top, right?
It keeps us looking at you.
Yeah, I'm always wanting to talk, but I won't.
All right. Does anybody else want? Anita wants to come on.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Steve Ladwig said about Christopher Slade. I know him just from the community, just walking down, and had a lot of conversations with him and his wife and his father. He has, I really like his values, and his knowledge speaks for itself, and his philosophy for long-term planning. I'm really impressed with that. He's data-driven. And I really feel he has the skills and the personality to and the dedication to do a good job as a planning commission.
Are there anyone else would like to comment on this before we go to the next stage? I don't see anything. So what we're going to do, I guess the best way is to go through one at a time. We are going to be able to decide, and you guys have the best way you think to do this, or do we have, is there some method that you use in this kind of thing?
Gabe and I agree. Your approach is
One at a time. Okay. So our list begins with Aaron Haken. So I think we have 5 of us here. So what we can do is, I think, right in advance, make sure you have a clear picture of who you would like to have on the planning commission, and we will vote each person one at a time. So we'll start with Aaron, and what we can do is, Gabe, do you want to do a little roll call on each one? We'll see how they come up.
Gabe, I would like to be able to vote on those I have knowledge of and abstain on those I cannot.
So,
This is for Aaron Haken.
yeah, do we want to make a motion? Does somebody want to make a motion, or are we just going to do just?
it's probably best to make a motion in a second.
And then vote. Okay, let's start with Aaron. Somebody like to move to put Aaron.
I move to appoint Aaron Hankinen.
Okay,
I second that.
okay, we got a first and a second, so Gabe, we're ready to have a vote.
That was Ladwig and Tuttle, right?
Yes,
Yes.
our new mayor didn't make it yet. Sorry.
Yeah, she tried.
So we have first and a second to nominate Aaron Hakkinen to continue and serve a 4-year term on the planning commission. Ladwig,
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Kelly,
Aye.
West.
Yes.
And Kate.
Yes.
Okay. All right, would someone like to, well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna move to appoint Richard Johnson
West. Tuttle. Nominate Richard Johnson to continue another 4-year term. We'll start with Ladwig,
Yes.
Tuttle,
Yes.
Kelly,
Aye.
West.
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Now, this is someone new, is Christopher Slade, who we just talked about. Would someone like to nominate Christopher Slade?
So moved.
Okay. Second.
Okay. All right. We have a first and a second.
Ladwig and Tuttle to nominate Christopher Slade. Ladwig,
Yes.
Tuttle, Kelly, West.
Yes.
And
Abstain.
Katie abstain. Passes 4-1 abstain.
All right, we have one more, which is Stephen Coppola, who is fourth candidate, so.
I don't think you necessarily have to do that because you've reached 3.
Okay, so I know that, so we don't need to even put that in, or
What do you think?
Yeah, no, that fills the seats, but we can certainly encourage him and we can communicate to him, reach out to him, and staff can do that.
Okay, no, I just didn't know if you
Apply for another.
make sure that we don't have it on other time or anything. If we've done that, then we're done. And please, he looked like a very good candidate on paper, so I appreciate that he was willing to put a letter in and tell him that there's many ways he can help the city. We'll come back to him. He's not going to escape. I think we're ready to move on to number 8. And our last discussion, decision, or no, this is a discussion announcement regarding upcoming annual joint meeting of the City Council Planning Commission Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee to be held on January 24th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Eli, go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
So anyway, we wanted to put it on the agenda, bring it to the attention of the council and to the attention of the public, that we are planning on having our annual joint meeting of the 3 bodies, the City Council, the Planning Commission, and the Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee. And it would be on January 24th, which would be the second or the 4th Tuesday, which is normally held for city council meetings whenever we need to have a second meeting in the month. So the recommendation was to choose that date, which would have normally been a potential council meeting date, and invite the Planning Commission and Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee. The Planning Commission is meeting tomorrow night. They can discuss it. And the Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee met on December 5th. And out of the 4 members that were present, all 4 said that they can attend. The only person who was not present will reach out to Jacques Beaupre. So from the council, will that work for everyone? Steve's shaking his head yes.
We should be prepared because it is a usual meeting, so.
Right.
Are we all okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we have consensus. That was it.
All right, great. So with that, we're going to move to future agenda items that anybody who is, do any of you have something that you would like us to make sure gets on the next agenda? And Katie, I believe you wanted to start with that.
Well, I'm not sure exactly how to delineate it, but the issues of dog park, dogs on the beach, really, because I don't think a park and the beach are the same. They don't offer the same appeal to dogs running free. But something, I took Adora's point, I thought was well made, which is that you have ordinances, but if they're not enforced, then people begin to treat the law as if it doesn't exist. And that in some ways, you do yourself a disservice having an ordinance you don't enforce. On the other hand, I did vote for the announcement because of what happened on the beach. You have to do something now. But in terms of a future agenda item, something around what shall we do with our dogs off leash? Where can they go? is there, for example, could we agree on Tuesday afternoons, before the sundown they're allowed? I don't know what the solution would be, but something that, where the public has a chance to talk about this, because I'm a dog owner, and you can see I have a reaction right away. So I suspect other dog owners do too.
Well, maybe we need to pull out the policy that the ordinance, and I think that'd be especially looking at you want to look at the ordinance and see what we can do with it. Is that we'd like to do this? Right, so
I would get that from you.
Yeah, sure.
so
Is it still available online? Is that one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
things that's available?
yeah.
It is available online under the Trinidad Municipal Code. And section 6.04.
That's helpful.
Right, so
Sure.
good. So looking at that, the ordinance is a great start. Okay, and we'll bring that back, and we can bring something back on there. That's good. Okay. Is there anyone else who has something?
I would like to have an actually decision about the speed bump. We've been talking about it for a while, so we find out costs. Where are we going to put them?
Maybe traffic calming, including the window and the speed bumps
Yeah.
on Ocean and View.
Should do it. Then I would love to see one on Underwood on that sharp corner, because cars fly around that corner very quickly. So it's something to just slow them down at the corner.
Right, so we're gonna bring that back.
The other thing was maybe revisiting the council assignments for the coming year. If we want to do that, I don't know.
No, that has to be, that's a regular thing, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll
Once we get everybody seated, we'll bring that back in January.
Yeah,
So,
Gabe's
you got it.
Gabe's not gonna let anybody get out of this, so
Okay.
get ready. I'd like to go to planning. We have a lot of planning commission. What is our next task that we can look at? Do we have anything lined up from on that you'll be sending us for
The general plan.
Plan,
So-
yeah.
So we have Richard and we have Aaron.
Yeah,
Do you guys know if you're gonna be able to finish one of the elements before our next meeting? And we've got also Anton here who does the minutes. So what's on the agenda? Is it one of them on the agenda?
have it in front of me, but I think it's the design element, and I think it's not needed.
Okay, so we have both Richard and Aaron also. Is it the design element? I don't even know if there is a design.
Yeah, just looking at the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting, a housing related zoning ordinance update is on there as well as the general plan, community design element, and both of those are
Really the design.
close.
good.
I think would be a fair assessment. Richard, do you agree?
Yes, I think that tomorrow night is critical in that we'll be hopefully looking at a preliminary plan for completion. And I think that will give a lot of visibility to the city council and to the public in terms of what needs to be done in what sequence. And hopefully we can start making commitments to meet our goals to complete the various elements. Bear in mind that some of the elements have already been through a fairly significant review, even through the city council. And so I think looking at this holistic plan will give you a much better feel for where exactly we are. I would just like to also mention that Trevor, our city planner, has been working very closely with the Coastal Commission, who is a very big part of this whole process. And we believe that we have a much greater commitment for assistance from the Coastal Commission that we've had in the past. And hopefully with that commitment, we'll be able to move further, a little bit farther and faster. So I think that there's a real possibility here to see some good activity in the next several months. So tomorrow night's important.
Good. Well, thank you. We, that's great. We hopefully will see something at our next meeting. Is there anything else that you have? Steve, do you have anything you wanted to add to next one?
Yeah, now that we have a new council seated, there was some comments made about the selection process for new short-term rental applications, to revisit how we select folks. And so I'd like to bring that back to the council for further discussion now that we have, even though it was voted on, now that we have a new council, to revisit that.
Okay, if we have nothing else, we just to let you know that you can always see Eli or see one of us. If anybody has anything they'd like to add, they do meet regularly on Monday to try to get some of these ideas out there so we can have things, more things on the agenda so we can stay out late on these nights and get things done. But anyway, it looks like we've got everything done. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for being here and have a nice holidays. We'll see you next year.
This thing's.
Just so you know, Sherry's hand went up. I don't know if you guys.
Sherry, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something before we go? We got one more quick thing. I'm sorry.
I did. And we always want to say thank you to people who have been in public service. And we know how hard this work is. And so I just want to extend a thank you to Diane Stockness, who is retired, and she worked really hard. And boy, she was really detailed oriented, and she really had a lot of great input in that project as far as the Planning Commission. And I just want to take a moment as a citizen of the Trinidad greater area to thank her for her work. And that was it. Thank you so much for letting me make that comment.
Thank you. All right. I think we're all set. So. Yeah, we have, she was asking.